Hi guys, in this tutorial I'm going to get into forms and form elements. So just in case you guys don't know, a form is basically an area that we can add in form elements onto our web page that allow us to gain data from the user. In other words, we could add a name section in where the user could fill in their name and a password section where they could fill in a password, etc., etc. Forms actually tie in with JavaScript or PHP and other kinds of scripting languages that have the ability to handle data, such as store it in a database or email that data over to someone. So the first thing we need to do is add a form onto our web page. And to do that, we simply open up a new tag called Form. And then we can end that off as well, and inside here we'll put the rest of our form elements. But before we even get started on adding other form elements into this form, I just wanted to mention that there are two other attributes that we have to place in the opening tag of this form. The first attribute is called action, and the second attribute is called method. These two attributes are required because the first attribute, action, is basically asking where do you want to send the data from this form and where do you want to send that to. So in other words, you could place in the URL of another file, like a PHP file or something that would actually handle the data that is in this form. And then the second attribute here is the method, and the method is basically asking how you want to send the data from this form to the action page. There are actually only two different methods that we can use. The first one is post, which kind of sends the data in the background. It's nowhere where the user can see it, so it's a lot more secure. Another alternative to that is using the get method, but unfortunately get isn't the most secure method. If I were to run this in the browser over here, get actually sends the data right here on the end of the URL. So it's okay to use this in some cases, but in other cases it really isn't recommended. If we leave the action attribute blank, it means that we're going to submit the data back to the same page. Whenever I submit this data, it's going to submit right back to onto index.html. Now I'm going to create an element called input, and it's actually a single tag element, so I can close that off. This input element takes a few attributes, and the first is the type. The reason we specify a type is because attribute could be rendered as one of many elements. So I'll give the type of text, and a few other attributes like name, which is required whenever you want to send the data from the input element through to the server. It needs to some way identify what information came from this element. I could give it a name of anything, so I'll just say username. So if I wanted a user to input a username, just put a label right over here. Then this username right here corresponds to what we're expecting from the user. So you can see that this is run in the browser over here. Now if we wanted to submit this username, we can use another input with a type equal to submit. This will show up as a button. a type equal to submit, and I'll give it a value also of submit. The value defines the text on the submit button. What it will do, however, is take whatever information was input over here and submit the form data to a form handler. So the form handler is typically a server page with a script for processing input data. Let's see if I put my name in here. Submit. And then lastly, the text area element looks like this. And it has an attribute of name, which is used to identify the data in the text area. So I'll have the user describe an experience. And then I'll put the name as description. And I think I need to put maybe a break right here. So this is a little bit easier to see. And then two other attributes that I could use would be the rows and column attributes to define the size of the text area. I'm going to fit them in right here. Put like 15 rows and then columns, say about 60. So then this gives the user plenty of room to type right here whatever they want to describe their experience. It's also expandable. And I believe that is all I have for today, so if you have any questions, feel free to post them into the discussion board, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks!